Welcome back. Before I introduce our featured poets, please remember that we're inviting all of our audiences, both live stream and live, to respond to all of the featured poets' new work this season. So you have like 60 poets to choose from and all their new books. There's hundreds of poems. And you can respond to the poems. We have a little mini sort of generative workshops to start you off. We're going to have more next year. So please think about that and start writing if you haven't, because we would love to have you submit the work to our anthology. And with that said, I want to introduce, who's going first? Kim, okay. They were like deciding. Kim Trainor is the daughter of an Irish banjo player and a Polish faller. She has 4 books of poetry, including Karyotype, Ledi, which was shortlisted for the Raymond Souster Award, and A Thin Fire Runs Through, that's correct, Runs Through Me. My apologies, I blended my words in here and I've got meand. A Thin Fire Runs Through Me. As well, her work has appeared in publications such as Anthropocene, Ecocene, ISLE, do I just say ISLE? Yeah. Ecozone, like a lot of journals that are obviously in favour of like supporting our wilderness. Yes. Also Dark Mountain in the UK, Fire Season 1 and 2 in Vancouver. And Kim has poetry films that have screened at Zebra Poetry Film Festival in Berlin and at the Institute for Experimental Art in Athens, as well as Dublin and Seattle. Please welcome Kim Trainor.
Thank you so much. I can see myself. That's terrible. Anyways, I was just saying to Kieran earlier, I've been writing Poets Corner in Vancouver for quite a while, and yeah, I'm very short. I'm going to do this. No, if I do this, then people can't see me, right? So maybe I shouldn't do that. And just, I know how much energy and time and passion and volunteer hours go into running a series like this. And I'm just amazed that you've been going on for so long and that you've had so many amazing poets read here. And I recognize some of you who read at Poets Corner as well. But we have had to close down, actually, at least hopefully it won't be forever, but we just don't have the funds anymore and everyone's getting tired. So, but hopefully it will revive again with a new set of volunteers. So if you are moving to Vancouver, hit me up and I will introduce you to some people who might want to get it going again. So I'm going to read to you, and if I could just say, one of my favorite parts always at Poets Corner, as here, is the open mic. I love hearing new work, and it's like fresh off the page and seeing what people are doing. And there's always this amazing mix of and going from a really funny, crazy poem to something that's very dark. And there's the ups and the downs, but it's always fantastic to listen to. So I really appreciate hearing that. So I'm going to read from my latest book. This is called A Blueprint for Survival. It's essentially a play. Okay, I stole the title from a book by The Ecologist in 1972. So they put out a book called A Blueprint for Survival. Initially, it was like I think this periodical, and the idea was to sound the alarm. We're heading towards climate catastrophe. Okay, this is 1972. I was like 1 at the time, right? 1.5, and of course, we're still having these warnings every year. And of course, I think COP29 is happening right now, and we just don't listen. Nothing happens. We try and we try. But anyways, this book is sort of, in some ways, it's optimistic, I would say. It has its moments, but it's in 2 parts. So the first part is called Wildfire. And I was just starting to notice as I was writing poems, and mostly the first section is love poems, I would say, but that the fire, smoke in the air was just so noticeable. Like all the time you were noticing the smoke. And it started to wend its way into my poems. And then the second one is called Seeds. And the idea there, this is actually a diagram of the Svalbard seed vault, one of the sort of big, sort of almost corporate seed vaults, but you have these little tiny vaults in many communities around the world where the little land races are kept, and sort of preserve all these interesting varieties that we don't have in the main supermarkets. Don't get me started. But I was thinking about this idea of, with wildfire, some seeds need their serotinous, meaning they need fire or heat to germinate, to grow. So the second part is called seeds, and each seed, and if you're very literal and pedantic, you'll say, some of the things I include here are not technically seeds. That is true, but it's a metaphor. So I have a friend who's like, that's not a seed, that's not a seed. And I was thinking about blueprints of art, like human artifacts, but also organisms, other, like more than human kin, and what they provide for us in terms of ideas of different ways of being and living in the world, and relating to our kin. So I'll read a few from Wildfire. Seeds is a little more experimental, so it's a little harder to read at a standard poetry reading. This is actually the first time I've ever read from this book, so let's see how it goes. Yeah, well, because for the other few times I've presented it, I've shown my films, so I haven't actually read from it. So wow. I'm working towards creating a film for every seed, so we'll see how that goes. But I'll stop gabbering now, and I will read from Wildfire, and I'll start with just the very first poem. So it's called Manna. I wake beside you. You ask if I'm hungry. Tea? Cereal? Manna? What? Gathered like dew, like coriander seeds, small as the hoarfrost on the ground, sweet like wafers made with honey, shining like bdellium, ansisang along the old Silk Road. You hold out to me a pearl of resin that will melt in the sun, unctuous when crumbled and bitter to the taste, that will rot and crawl with worms. But now it is translucent and sweet. You woke at dawn to find it for me, traveled through Exodus and Numbers, Discordies and the lost botanies of Theophrastus, hiked Bactria from Amu Darya to the Hindu Kush, braved the cataracts of Nubia, the Erythraean Sea. You hold it out to me, a teardrop. It cannot be saved for later. It is for now, to eat in this morning light. I wake beside you. You ask if I'm hungry. Yes, I say. Yes. So this next one is called Wildfire. The wildfires have been burning some weeks now, and even here at noon, the light is sci-fi, burnt ochre, umber. The radio reports evacuations, but none near you where you've been working long days in the West Kettle and Similkameen, while I have been carrying on without you. You call each night from a payphone in the Kootenays. I cup your flickering voice to my ear. Crickets, the zip of a tent, B minor sharps and blues, rasp of white noise. You have become so thin. If I breathe too hard, you are extinguished. Don't leave me. Come closer in tympanum, love. Come deeper, cochlear, sheltered in my hearing. Boreal. You are driving into the mountains, into sunlight, into a storm, out of cell phone range. Or you have slept in, still at your Airbnb in Edmonton, in the green-walled basement room you Skype through. I'll strip for you, you said, and you did, tearing off your t-shirt, turquoise earbud dangling from your shorn head. You swim towards me through rippling teal light. Human existence is so fragile a thing and exposed to such dangers that I cannot love without trembling. Your sharp-winged hips, black curl, scar of your circumcision. You are reading articles on the drunken trees of the boreal, spruce tilting as the permafrost melts, collapsed scars, serotinous cones that require fire, warming, drying, death to be reborn. White spruce and black, tamarack, balsam, taiga, the untraversable forest. I take a picture of you locked in my screen, a grim headshot, send it to you. I look like a hostage being forced to denounce American imperialism. I put my fingers to my lips and touch them to your lips. I can almost feel that. You are here. You are not here. Your body has disappeared. The fingertip bruise you left on my collarbone is gone. You are gone. I lie in my tent at Descanso Bay, pitch dark, and feel a gash opening in me, ribs torn out. I'm reading about the rhythm of attention, our on and off reception of the world, dynamic between mark and interval, where positive and negative space is also fundamental to the creation of signifying forms. Here, not here. Your voice, silence, a voice, hush. In and out of earshot, eyesight, rests and silences in music and poetry, like negative space in visual art, are form-giving. The rhythm of your body is withdrawn. I resound in your silence. Stripped from me, I have not even begun to know your body. So the last one from this first section is called Paper Birch. These are notes for a poem I meant to write in August, but poetry seemed very far away then. The BC wildfires smudged the shoreline of the Saskatchewan, everything ash on the tongue, like cigarettes or coffee dregs, and the sun a smoked pink disk. I had not seen you for weeks except by Skype. I'll strip for you, you said, and you did. But now in flesh meandering, now talk, now silence, now climate change, your research on the boreal. Here's aspen, here's chokecherry. Look, is that paper birch? I asked. No, you said. Then yes, yes. And here are my scribbled notes. Betula peperifera, small cuts in the cream skin, like welts or gaping mouths of blood, of rust. Carved initials join lovers. A trunk stripped, except for bandaged swaths over brown flesh. A square excised, the single deep gash for leverage and a sheet torn off. Shreds of paper on the ground. They were refugia, you told me, migrating north, following the retreating sheets of ice. Tell me, where do we go from here? Score me with desire lines, write words for songs that have none in the wrist's blue margins, sparse language of the tundra. Sew me with tamarack and stretch me over cedar ribs tipped leeward to split the river's tongue. You say paper birch fires quickly and burns hot. Ignite me. I think that might have been the day, the night. You sang for me the Tsama Lacha Nafshi. My soul thirsts for you. My flesh longs for you in a dry, parched land. I'm just going to read one last one, but it's quite long, so bear with me. This is from the second half, from Seeds, and the seed is called lentil, and it's essentially a transcription of a drunken night out, if I can put it that way. It wrote itself. I was just transcribing, basically. I have a very querulous Marxist friend who likes to shout at me about ecology. And he loves to make pronouncements about things. So there are quite a few pronouncements in this poem. So, and let's see how it goes, because this is my first time reading it in front of people, I think. Maybe once before. Okay. N lives in the basement suite of a Vancouver special, west of Renfrew, east of Nanaimo. I'm biking up Renfrew after work on a wet March night, bottle of cheap red in my pannier. N has made a pot of dal and no need pumpernickel, just back from a Buddhist meditation retreat in the interior. He has been hiking and tramping and trekking and writing on hydro dams and sightseeing, commodity fetishism, and keeping an eye on the carbon ppm and the atmosphere creep up and up and up for years, for decades now. Outraged and contrarian, angry, funny, exuberant, dogmatic accelerant. Oh, my querulous Marxist friend, what sorrow's root, what rages, what ails you tonight? The earth is in Bardo. Sit down at the kitchen table, pour wine into jars. What can I say, man? I've been thinking about this since the 80s. So we drink and talk Radon, Shamano, Campagnola, McGibbon, Monbiot, Thunberg, James Lovelock. He's a crackpot. No, he's not. The IPCC special report on 1.5 degrees of warming. Fusion is magical thinking. Recipes for pumpernickel, the war in the woods, Port Alberni. She was wrong on Run of the River. Meditation, you just watch your breath. It takes years. Sometimes I masturbate. The lovely Lily, Linda, Natasha, Chandra, Karen, Chavisa, Mig, Susie, Helen, Stephanie, Jessica. Oh, but she was so lovely. Talk vegan diets and carbon gentrification, sequestration, the Pope's encyclical Laudato Si, West Moberly and Soto Nations, endangered caribou in the peace. You just watch your breath. The Bardol Todal. The earth is in Bardo. N serves bowls of Dow, coarse sea salt, chopped jalapeno. Now we're on to the Green New Deal and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Is it a fatal error to link the dismantling of capitalism to carbon reduction? The open letter to Extinction Rebellion, the Red New Deal. I don't know, how can I put it? Everything's fractured, all these little splinter ideologies. The Trans Mountain Pipeline, Tsleil-Waututh, Blockadia. Naomi Klein blurs together all these different kinds of capitalism. Solar cells, wind turbines, climate leviathan, climate Mao, chlorella, spirulina. Trump is right, the cows will have to go. Can we keep goats? I love goats. And we have to stop eating fish, the main protein source for coastal poor in the south. The Svalbard Seed Bank, no-till farming, Bija mantras, you just watch your breath. Thoughts will interfere, and you just watch them too. The Greenland ice shelf, methane deposits in permafrost, eco-modernist microplastics converting farmland to forest, genetic modification of staple crops to fix more carbon in their roots. My grandfather invented Trillium for Monsanto. He was the father of the Green Revolution. Oh, the irony. The tiny house warriors and Canada's Manuel, John Bellamy Foster, disciplining capital. How good the Dow. If you don't have a pressure cooker, you have to soak the lentils overnight. The Zen Center, the Salvation Army. I put photos of my challah on Bumble. Calls for World War II style mobilization. The Apollo Foundation, more like the moonshot, the Great Transition. What form will it take? Tropical diseases creeping north. Sea levels are rising. Arctic melt, albedo effect, existential threat, climate denial, climate despair. The dregs of the wine. The earth is in Bardo. Remember that time we went to the Princeton? Yes. The Wise Hall is busy. What's up, hot dog? Too noisy. Hey, the beer is pretty cheap at the Brighton. Slip through a cordon of smoke to sit at the bar. Talk methane and cows, vegan proteins, recharging stations for electric cars, the Evergreen Line, global dimming, Qualia bundling. They called my grandfather Q. We had t-shirts made up. My grandma ran a boarding house in East Vancouver. He was given a lab by UBC when he retired from McGill. She only took men, firefighters, policemen, loggers, they were her boys. Communal living, urban density, object-oriented ontology. What's that? An extension of Heidegger. No one believes in Heidegger anymore. A critique of Kantian emphasis on the subjective correlationist and the need to shift back towards the object, the thing in itself. No one believes in the thing in itself. Maybe that's the problem. How can I put it, man? Kantian noumena is not the problem here. A way to recognize, to acknowledge the other Heidegger's tool analysis. What can I say? We need to increase the carbon tax by several $100s per ton. Yes, of course, but also, last call. The first bardo is the bardo of life. The second is an aspect of the first, the bardo of dreams. The third is the bardo of meditation, actively pursued. The fourth is of the moment of death. The fifth, the Choni Bardo, is the bardo of the luminosity of the true nature, a liminal state of terrifying vision and sound in which one seeks the clear light. The sixth bardo is that of becoming, the transmigrating form determined by the karmic seeds, bija, within the storehouse consciousness, seeds which determine the new form. N texts me. He's back from a radon conference in Saskatoon. I'm at Descanso Bay, campsite 5, the dark-eyed Juncos. Are you in Nanaimo with Y alone? Gabriola alone. Y is en route from Edmonton. A is maybe in Edmonton. I'm working on a new long poem. Your recipe for dal will figure somehow. And A's snowdrops. Yes, lentils, beyond meat lies 3 millennia of food wisdom, blessed by Krishna, Shiva, and Ram. I am boiling split mung beans as we speak, gonna eat with millet. Yes, each section will be about a seed, one being lentil. I hope you grant me blessing to include your text in my poem. Yes, go ahead. Better even then being a poet is being a poet's muse. Lentil is not a seed, by the way. Thank you.
Oh, holy cow. Thank you so much, Kim. That was amazing. Wow. I'm so, I don't know, you feel honored that Kim read for us for the first time from her book. And we've got it on live stream. So both these books are for sale. All of it, Kim has 2 books here and Ashley Elizabeth has 1. So please remember to take a look at them after the poets are finished. Ashley Elizabeth Best is a disabled poet and essayist from Kingston. Her work can be found in the Capilano Review, the New Welsh Review, CV2, Ambit Magazine, Mslexia, and Chatelaine, to name a few. Her work was longlisted for the 2021 CBC Poetry Prize. So was mine.
Hey.
Yeah, buddies.
Yeah.
Yes.
Before we
Sorry about that. Her second collection, Weather Mammals, is now available from ECW Press, and she's currently the editor and editorial coordinator for Art Poetry Magazine, and also a marketing assistant for Brick Books. So she's a woman to know. Please welcome Ashley Elizabeth Best.
Oh, wow, I see what you mean. Very visible. There, I'm also short, so here we go. Okay. I'm just gonna start my timer so I don't go too over. Yes, thank you, Planet Earth. I think it's absolutely amazing what you do and giving this space and venue to us poor poets traveling around and, you know, shopping our wares and our words. And also to all of you who read at the open mic, it's amazing to feel held by your words, to be in these new communities and meeting new people. So thank you so much. And to Kim as well. I'm really looking forward to reading your book. So yeah, this is Bad Weather Mammals. It's the second book is my attempt to I guess take up some space that I haven't always been afforded as a disabled woman, and to talk about my stories and experiences unabashedly and for the way they happened and what they are. Yeah, so I'll just get into it. This poem is called Good Sick, Bad Sick. The sick should be good. It is a kind of undoing. You take phone calls from your psychiatrist. You want to be delivered safely into the compassion of others. Bad sick is having an ill body and letting it rot. Those you love don't need you unless you're suffering. Become your own precise terminology, a congregation of whispers, an army of murmurations, a flock of routes, an unkindness of biochemicals. You can slip from your body like cool air runs against the skin. Spirits are borrowers, and yours has been caught roaming. But your laughter has no breath, no air pumped to the gut, no moment to cup in your hands. You have a hunch you're starving, and your mind will begin to digest the recognizable, to pull on the minutes of your days for nutrients. Everyone wants to know or to hear how your mind has betrayed you, but there was no disloyalty, just little stories you didn't know how to tell. Then the Bronwyn in this next poem is Bronwyn Wallace, who is a Kingston poet, and she passed away in 1989 of breast cancer. And actually recently one of her poems was used. She worked at Interval House, a place for those dealing with domestic violence, and one of her poems was used to convict someone of murdering their wife. So amazing poet, you should check her out, and let's all hope that our words have that kind of impact one day. I am becoming a house. Bronwyn suggested the body is a limit we must learn to love. I'm not one to love my limits. I'm practicing being an empty house. Evict the skull of the moon, the land of my ancestors and their failed farms. Chittering light, thunder that grits like stuck gears,
a wind resurfacing anything not green to the landscape, creak of the van my brother set fire to for insurance money. Watch my past float away in a smoke cloud amidst braided channels of branches, a fractal silhouette darning the sky. I become a boarded up house in the toothy shards of my own sight. Memories have been filed under false reports. A house without a heart cannot be broken. I wanted to be chosen, instead wait for clonazepam to Trojan horse its way in, leave only a surface dirge of appropriate behavior. I think if the moon knew me, it would take my side. I had someone tell me once to stop writing so much about the moon. I feel like I've just been writing about it more. Actually, what I'm going to be talking about tomorrow at the workshop are hermit crab poems. So one of the things I did in this book, there are a couple of hermit crab poems, and I've taken the forms that I received from Disability Services at ODSP in Ontario, and I structured it into a poem. Just felt like it was something written about me, but not for me. So it just says, Ministry of Children, Community and Social Services, Ontario Disability Support Program, Ontario Works at the top, and the little number that I was for a very long time and probably still am to some government agency somewhere. Dear Ashley Elizabeth Best, I am writing to you about your income support from the Ontario Disability Support Program, ODSP. Resilience is cultivated out of necessity. It's communal in a survival of the fittest kind of way, and none of us are fit. How can language conjure illness, make it a body of waking light, launched forward onto its own shadow? You told us you no longer want to receive ODSP income support. I had to submit my partner's financials that my grants and his income would make it impossible to continue receiving support, voluntarily leave, or fight again, and again. We have closed your ODSP file for now. Your income support will stop as of April 30th, 2021. When the woman at the bank whispers, ODSP, shame is truth whispered. The truth to speak it back at full volume, a hope the world can learn to see me as I am. Consider, it is a privilege to have a story, to know your own narrative, as surely as you know your own name. I think I'm going to read two more from this, and I have a couple new poems that I've been working on for my new collection, so I thought I'd read a couple of them here. This next one is called Prodromal. The worst feeling is being recovered and sensing another episode coming on. It is the scale, not the words. Plant your canines in the most tender of those anticipations. Pain will make it all clear. There's always a fallow before the fall, the body a predetermined landscape, a consequence of living. There's never any question you must always lift yourself out. You want everyone to know what you've done, but not how you did it. But you don't blame anyone. The heart is a small sun in which you burn with forgiveness. You didn't believe in backbones until Papa showed you how to pull life from a body, the spine of a fish. The thaw is always further upstream than the melt. A lot of my poems also heavily feature nature. I grew up, my grandfather's an arborist, so I was outside a lot growing up near Algonquin Park, so a little different than here, but this poem is called Absence. Stopped eating, picked my own bones clean with health, transforming myself with lists, boiled my organs with pots of burdock and dandelion roots, charted thickets of soil with my taste buds, tracks of poison, of plastic entwined at the root. Refuse olfactory pleasures, sampling soil, a vessel, a garden, a new stratum. Speak only to differentiate between layers, bones nailed to igneous rock. The smallest crops can give the most at harvest, like the girl who lived 3,700 years ago, her DNA extracted from chewed birch pitch. Consider your teeth in the earth's belly, their usefulness in decoding what you may never know about yourself. Your usefulness may outlive you. Mica reflects back on your own wilderness, each unearthed form its own astonishment. yeah, so that's a little sampling of bad weather mammals. And so I'm currently working on some new projects, and they both center, this is also a content warning for anyone watching or here. A couple years ago, my partner and I were the victims of gun violence, of drive-by shooting, and who shot in front of me, and it was this whole life-disrupting, just absolutely wild thing that you never think is going to happen to you. And so I've been interrogating that, I guess, a little bit. And so these are some poems that sort of deal with that. I'm working on a sequence of poems called Little Interrogations, and each one is a gun idiom, because you don't really realize how much language is laden with weird things like that until you go through an event like that. And I guess even as a disabled person as well, you notice these things, crazy and other words that come up that, are just strange in certain contexts. So the first one is called Parting Shot. When I was 11, I knew who had the gun. I would pretend a tree behind our slummy housing was a house. I communed with invisible walls, ghost lines of branches pulled down, stories drifting in a rift of sky. A neighbor boy approached my tree, grinning the whole backyard corridor long. The surface of my house in the tree brittled. His grin, the barrel of a gun in his hand. A pile of leaves buffered a quick escape on the ground. Later, my father uses his Swiss Army knife to dislodge the metal pellet from my upper arm. A parting shot is a person who must always have the last word. This one's called Ride Shotgun. I ride shotgun with you because I cannot drive. Never had the chance or the money. The dictionary says to ride shotgun is to guard someone or something while in transit. Men on stagecoaches armed with shotguns rode beside the driver for protection. I entered into the silent agreement, a navigator, a woman feeding you carrot sticks and fries. This is where our tracks led. I rode shotgun, and after watching bullets hit the car and you, I was veined with new possibility. I cannot help but pursue this line, for it happened. Instincts, habits of the mind, I went to you, pulled you from the car. That black car, the shooters watching, capable at any moment of firing again. On the shore of my brain today, I am mostly just scared to be without you, because when I cannot see you, you are as gone as I thought you were when I watched bullets enter your body. If there is a price for your return, please know, no matter how great, I will always pay it. And I'll just leave off with this last one, which may be a bit more hopeful. It doesn't have a title yet, but I wrote it after reading Carrie Fountain's poem, You Belong to the World. It's just sort of thinking about gratitude and like maybe what we could be grateful for. Do we need to be grateful for these things? I don't know. It was just a circular thought going through my head, but you belong to the world too, I say to the mouse that emerged from the hood of my car mid-drive. Fall washing itself of summer's wardrobe, branches so waterlogged you spread and easily pick apart its fibrous links. You belong to the world, I say to the students partying in the streets surrounding the hospital, drunken steps threading their ways in front of my car on my way to discharge you from the hospital. Our grief belongs, is love, is a new form of devotion. Everywhere life emerges, sirens choiring citywide, honing in on us. That's everything I have. Thank you.